January 26, 1950, a military transport plane lifts off from Anchorage, Alaska, climbing slowly into a sky already thick with winter clouds. On board are 44 people, Air Force personnel, a few civilians, all heading south toward Montana. Just another routine flight across the frozen north. At first, everything is normal. The engines hold steady. Radio communication is clear. The aircraft pushes eastward over miles of mountains and wilderness that very few people have ever set foot in. And then, something changes. The last message from the plane is brief, calm, routine. Moments later, silence. The aircraft never reaches its destination. Search crews mobilize almost immediately. Planes sweep across the icy wilderness. Hundreds of miles of mountains, forests, and frozen valleys are scanned from the air. Day after day, the search continues. More than 2,000 sorties are flown across the Alaska-Yukon region, one of the largest aerial search efforts of its time. But nothing appears. No wreckage, no signal, no debris scattered across the snow. 44 people and an entire aircraft simply vanish. It's the kind of disappearance that leaves investigators staring at maps for decades, because the terrain below is vast, violent, and almost completely empty. But the strange part is this. This was not the first disappearance here, and it would not be the last. Over the years, pilots, hikers, hunters, entire aircraft would vanish in the same enormous stretch of wilderness. Some were eventually explained. Others were not. Locals began noticing the pattern. 3 distant points on the map, Anchorage in the south, Juneau in the southeast, and the Arctic town of Utqiagvik far to the north, draw lines between them, and inside that massive space lies a region where an unusual number of people have disappeared, a place where the wilderness seems to swallow things whole. Today, many people know it by a name that sounds almost fictional. They call it the Alaska Triangle. At first, it looked like coincidence. A lost aircraft here, a missing hunter there, a hiker who never returned from a trail. Alaska is wild country, and accidents happen. But as the years passed, people began noticing something unsettling. The numbers kept growing. Across the United States, missing person cases happen every year. Most are resolved quickly. People found safe or located within days. But Alaska is different. Per person, more people disappear here than anywhere else in the country. In some years, the rate is more than 20 times the national average. For a state with fewer than 1 million residents, the numbers are strangely high. More than 1,000 active missing person cases can exist at any given time. And when investigators began mapping where many of those disappearances occurred, a pattern quietly appeared. A massive triangular region, Anchorage in the south, Juneau along the southeastern coast, and Utqiagvik on the edge of the Arctic Ocean. Inside those boundaries lies one of the largest wilderness regions in North America. And it's inside this enormous area that the disappearances seem to cluster. Planes have vanished in mid-flight. Experienced hunters have disappeared along familiar routes. Tourists, hikers, fishermen sometimes simply fail to come back. Search teams often arrive quickly. Helicopters sweep valleys. Dogs follow trails through dense forest. But again and again, the result is the same. Nothing. No footprints beyond a certain point. No wreckage. No personal belongings. Just empty wilderness. For some people, the explanation is simple. Alaska is harsh, unforgiving, and enormous. But for others, the pattern feels harder to ignore. Because when you start placing the cases on a map, the disappearances seem to gather in the same vast stretch of land. A region so big, so remote, that even modern search teams can struggle to understand what happens there. And to understand why people vanish here, you first have to understand the place itself. Because in Alaska, the land is not just a backdrop. Sometimes, it feels like the main character. To understand the disappearances, you have to see the scale. Alaska is not just big, it is overwhelming. Inside the Alaska Triangle lies a wilderness larger than many countries. Mountains rise suddenly from the earth, jagged and ice-covered, some of the tallest in North America. Among them stands Denali, more than 6,000 meters high. Its frozen slopes disappear into clouds that can swallow entire aircraft, and Denali is only one peak among thousands. Between these mountains stretch endless forests, dark spruce trees covering valleys that seem to have no end. Rivers cut through the land like veins of silver. Thousands of lakes scatter across the terrain. Glaciers move slowly down the mountainsides. Massive walls of ice that crack, shift, and sometimes collapse without warning. In many places, there are no roads at all. Entire towns sit completely isolated from the rest of the state. Nome, for example, rests on the edge of the Bering Sea, hundreds of miles from the nearest highway. The only way in or out is by air, or by boat when the sea ice allows it. And once you leave the towns behind, the wilderness becomes absolute. A person can travel for days without seeing another human being. Even the weather feels unpredictable. Storms move across the mountains with almost no warning. Clear skies can become blizzards within hours. Pilots flying through these regions often encounter sudden fog, violent wind, or ice forming on the wings of their aircraft. On the ground, the dangers are just as real. Temperatures can drop to 50 degrees below zero in winter. Snow can erase trails in minutes. And deep in the forests, predators still roam freely. Brown bears, black bears, wolves, moose. In many parts of Alaska, humans are not the dominant presence. They are visitors. And when someone disappears here, the land does not easily give answers back. Mountains hide wreckage. Glaciers swallow footprints. Rivers carry away anything light enough to move. Sometimes, even experienced search teams find themselves overwhelmed by the sheer size of the terrain. Because when you are standing in the middle of Alaska's wilderness, you begin to understand something. This is not a place designed for people, and yet every year, people continue to enter it. Hunters, climbers, pilots, travelers looking for adventure. Most return home with stories, but some become part of the mystery, and in a few cases, the stories they leave behind are even stranger than the landscape itself. October 16, 1972, a small twin-engine Cessna lifts off from Anchorage, climbing into the gray skies above southern Alaska. On board are 5 men. Among them are 2 powerful figures in American politics: Alaska Congressman Nick Begich and U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs. Their destination is Juneau, a routine political trip, a flight expected to last only a few hours. But somewhere between those 2 cities, the plane disappears. At first, the delay doesn't seem alarming. Weather in Alaska often forces pilots to adjust routes or land temporarily in small towns along the way. But hours pass, then a full day. The aircraft never arrives. Soon, one of the largest search efforts in American history begins. Military aircraft sweep across the mountains. Civilian pilots volunteer their planes. Helicopters comb the valleys and glaciers. More than 300,000 square miles of wilderness are searched. For 39 days, crews scan the skies and mountains of Alaska. And yet, nothing is found. No wreckage, no signal, no trace of the plane. 5 men simply vanish into the Alaskan wilderness. Even today, investigators still don't know exactly what happened that day, and it wasn't the only aircraft to disappear here. In May of 1992, another plane leaves the coastal town of Yakutat. Its destination is Anchorage. The aircraft, a twin-engine Cessna, carries a pilot and 4 passengers across a familiar route along Alaska's rugged coastline. The flight should be routine, but somewhere along the journey, communication stops. No distress call, no emergency signal. The aircraft simply vanishes from radar. Search teams comb the region for days. They scan mountain, forests, and miles of icy coastline. But just like the flight in 1972, no wreckage is ever found. The official report eventually lists the cause with a frustrating conclusion: missing aircraft, undetermined, and not every disappearance begins in the air. Sometimes, it starts quietly on the ground. In 1974, a hunter named Gary Sotherden heads into the remote wilderness of Alaska's interior, a place of thick forest, winding rivers, and almost no roads. He never returns. Search teams move through the terrain for days, but the wilderness is enormous. Eventually, the search is called off. Years pass, then decades. It isn't until much later that a skull discovered near the Porcupine River is finally identified through DNA testing. It belonged to Sotherden. Investigators believe a bear attack may have been responsible. A tragic end, hidden for years by the sheer scale of the landscape. Even today, stories like these continue. In 2025, a tourist visiting Juneau rides a tramway up into the mountains above the city. From the summit, hiking trails stretch across alpine ridges and forested slopes. At some point, she begins walking alone, Hours later, she fails to return. Search teams sweep the mountains surrounding Juneau. Helicopters circle overhead. Volunteers search the forest below. Days later, her body is discovered in the wilderness. Investigators believe she simply lost the trail and became trapped by the terrain. Different people, different decades, different circumstances. Yet the stories often end the same way. Someone enters the wilderness, and the wilderness keeps the answer. And the more investigators studied these cases, the more they began to notice something unusual. Because while the land explains many disappearances, there were still strange details that didn't quite fit. Small things, navigation errors, odd sightings, reports that seemed difficult to explain, and slowly, another layer of the Alaska Triangle mystery began to form. Even in the most documented cases, there are details that refuse to fit neatly into explanations. Pilots report instruments going haywire in the far north. Compass needles swing unpredictably near the Arctic Circle, veering off by as much as 20 or 30 degrees. At high latitudes, magnetic north drifts, confusing even the most experienced navigators. A simple miscalculation can send someone hundreds of miles off course. Yet some disappearances remain puzzling even accounting for this. Then there are the reports that cannot be easily ignored. In 1986, a Japanese cargo plane flying near the triangles. Northern Edge reported unusual lights. Following the aircraft, the crew described them as bright, hovering, moving in ways no conventional plane could. Radar confirmed objects appeared briefly on the scope, then vanished. Investigators later suggested weather phenomena or reflections. But the memory of that flight still haunts aviation circles. Local folklore adds another layer to the strange. Indigenous legends speak of shapeshifters, of spirits that lead travelers astray. The Tlingit call it the Kushtaka, the otter man, said to mimic cries and lure hunters into the wilderness. Prospectors in the 19th century called Thomas Bay Devil's Country, believing these spirits played tricks on those who dared the region. Tales of ice demons, sea trolls, and polar spirits have been whispered for generations. Even scientists admit that Alaska's environment itself can feel unnatural. Glaciers shift without warning. Crevasses appear suddenly. Rivers can change course in hours. Fog and ice can make familiar terrain disappear in seconds. Yet in rare cases, search teams find areas where tracks end abruptly, with no logical continuation. A hiker's footprints might stop in the middle of a frozen stream. A plane's wreckage may remain invisible despite aerial sweeps. The combination of folklore, magnetic anomalies, and sudden environmental shifts has created an aura of mystery over the triangle. People speak of missing time, of radios cutting out, of strange lights on the horizon. Many investigators remain skeptical. Most cases still have natural explanations, but the unusual patterns repeated across decades lend the Alaska Triangle a sense of something beyond the ordinary. And in that uncertainty, the tension grows. Every story, every disappearance, carries a question. How much is the wilderness? And how much might just be something we don't fully understand? Most disappearances in the Alaska Triangle have natural explanations. The weather is brutal. Winter storms bring blizzards, whiteouts, and wind chills below -50. Even summer can produce sudden fog, freezing rain, or high winds strong enough to throw a small plane off course. The terrain is merciless. Mountains rise sharply. Glaciers conceal deep crevasses. Rivers move faster than they appear. A simple misstep on a trail can become fatal. One NPS study noted that in 2002, 38 people required rescue in Alaska's national parks. 13 of them did not survive. Most of these incidents happened on Denali. Wildlife adds another layer of danger. Brown bears, black bears, and moose roam freely. Nearly 30% of all U.S. fatal bear attacks occur in Alaska. Even experienced hunters and hikers can be overwhelmed. Isolation compounds every risk. Many towns inside the triangle have no road access. Nome, for instance, is reachable only by air or seasonal barge. In the backcountry, cell service is rare. Rescue teams often must move on foot, by boat, or helicopter, covering terrain that can take days to cross. Navigation itself is tricky. The magnetic North Pole drifts across northern Alaska. Compass errors can reach 20 or 30 degrees if uncorrected. Even GPS signals can fade in extreme northern latitudes. Small mistakes, magnified by isolation, can be deadly. Transportation is equally hazardous. Alaska leads the nation in aircraft accident rates. Planes like the 1950 C-54, Skymaster, and the 1972 Begich Boggs Cessna highlight how even routine flights can turn fatal in poor weather. The rugged coastline also claims boats and barges, lost to icy waters or sudden storms. The 1871 whaling fleet trapped in Arctic ice. 33 ships lost. Crews survived. The vessels never returned. Despite these natural causes, some disappearances remain unexplained. Search teams find areas where tracks vanish abruptly. Aircraft leave no wreckage despite thorough sweeps. Radios cut out for no clear reason. Occasional reports of strange lights or fleeting anomalies leave investigators scratching their heads. Science explains most cases, but even when weather, terrain, wildlife, and human error are accounted for, the sheer volume of disappearances, the repeated patterns in the same vast wilderness, creates an unease that cannot be ignored. The Alaska Triangle is extreme, harsh, isolated, unforgiving, and sometimes, even nature itself seems to bend the rules. It leaves you asking, is it all just survival, misfortune, and bad luck? Or is there something in the land, something that continues to confound everyone who enters it? Every year, people keep disappearing in the Alaska Triangle. It doesn't matter if they are seasoned hunters, experienced pilots, or tourists following marked trails. The wilderness is indifferent. It does not warn. It does not forgive. Even with modern technology, satellite phones, GPS, and emergency beacons, the scale of the land overwhelms them. In 2024, Alaska reported over 1,300 active missing person cases, roughly 25 times the national average. Many of these are hikers or pilots lost to the environment, but the numbers alone are staggering. The mountains, rivers, and glaciers are enormous. A storm can hide a person in minutes. Creeks rise unexpectedly. Rivers flood. Glaciers crack and shift. A single wrong turn can take someone miles off any known trail. Isolation makes rescue almost impossible. Some towns are accessible only by plane or boat. Many areas have no road, no cell signal, no immediate help. Search teams can take days to arrive, by which time evidence is gone. Tracks erased. Footprints swallowed by snow or ice. Even experienced search and rescue personnel admit the difficulty. Denali alone accounts for the majority of NPS rescues and fatalities. A single mountain climb, a short bush plane flight, can become a life-threatening ordeal in minutes, and yet people continue to enter the triangle. They come for adventure, for solitude, for challenge. Each year the same pattern repeats: disappearance, search, sometimes recovery, sometimes nothing at all. It is not magic. It is not mystery for the sake of mystery. It is nature, amplified. Extreme weather, rugged terrain, wildlife, human error, a combination so powerful, it continues to claim lives. And in some cases, even the experts are left with questions. Why did tracks end abruptly? Why do planes leave no trace? Why do reports of strange lights or anomalies keep appearing in the same vast wilderness? The Triangle keeps its secrets. It is still Alaska at its most raw, most untamed, and most lethal. And as long as people enter, the disappearances will continue. Because in a place this vast, the wilderness decides who is found and who is not. The Alaska Triangle is more than a map on a page. It is a reminder of how small humans are. In the face of endless mountains, glaciers that stretch for miles, rivers that move faster than expected, even with the best equipment, the strongest skills, the most careful planning, the wilderness can take its own course. For centuries, people have entered this land: indigenous tribes, gold prospectors, explorers, pilots, hikers, tourists. Some return with stories. Some never return at all. Every disappearance leaves a mark, a memory, a warning. Legends and folklore grow from these experiences. Kushtaka, ice demons, strange lights, whispers of the unknown. They are part of the culture, part of the caution that this land demands. But behind every tale, there is reality. Harsh weather, impossible terrain, wildlife, isolation. These are the true forces at work. Yet despite all the data, all the science, the Alaska Triangle keeps its secrets. Planes vanish without a trace. Hikers disappear where trails should lead. Even search and rescue teams sometimes find nothing but silence. It is a place that reminds us, not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Not every story has closure. And sometimes, the land itself is the story. So when you hear about the Alaska Triangle, Think beyond legends. Think of scale, danger, survival. Think of the people who dared and the people who vanished. And remember, respect is not just for the living. It is for the wilderness itself. Because in a place this vast, not everything that disappears is ever meant to be found.